ready to talk about the surprise, but it's a little sneak peek of the name
We have a
on this
hint.
YouTube. So I just want to say cheers to you,
Cheers to
Dr.
you.
Gayla Gates. Thank you
Yes.
so much for holding the most gorgeous, the most safe
Yeah.
and compassionate and inviting space to spiritually become undone.
Ooh.
Um, I think we've been connecting for quite some time, and I have been learning how to be vulnerable and be broken out loud. One of the Gene Keys guides, Claire Norman, we had a conversation about doing the Venus sequence together. And the Venus sequence is where you dive deep into all your core wounds and traumas and all of the things, the relational things, the narcissistic, codependent dynamics, all of it.
Mm.
Childhood, whatever. I don't want to call them traumas because that's a hard word. I think a lot of people go through turbulence. And depending on how we hold it, it can look or feel in our body and create an energetic storm in our life like trauma. So I want to be more intentional of how I use the word trauma. Um,
Mm.
but I have to say that I've been working on, showing up a little bit more vulnerably and in the workplace. There's been some pushback. And so I was dealing with that on a Friday morning when we had rescheduled for the second or third time our session together. And I just want to thank you so much for having so much grace, and just really meeting me where I was at, because it was a really challenging week. And in
Mhm.
reflection and speaking with other people too, they had a really challenging week. Like last night, I met with a mom from the basketball team, and she said, I wrote the unsent letter on Wednesday. I said, I wrote my eulogy on Wednesday. I've never done something like this before. I hold space for death and rebirth for people, right?
Yes.
And so it's just everything was woven so perfectly for you to catch me when I was completely coming apart. And I asked you a question because I said, I know that the intention is not to do this process, this coming back home to myself in a codependent way. That's what I'm moving away from. And so I don't know if you want to maybe talk a little bit about what, um, the space that you held actually is, and then we can kind of go into how I
Mm-hmm.
felt in it. Just because just for context, I'm starting to tell the story without the context. So, and I just, again, welcome. This isn't the podcast. This is just a space for us to connect, and it will become unintentionally divine.
Yes, it
But I think
will.
this is an important first step of becoming the unintentionally divine, which I'm recognizing in my life it had to happen before we start the next phase. So, and you're such a huge, like, this is you, this is your thing, and you just invited me into it so graciously. So the
Yeah.
floor
I
is
mean,
yours.
thank you. Thank you for all of that. Thank you for the recognition. Thank you for the invitation because it takes two to get this work done. Like, one of the
Mm,
reasons why it was so important to me was I went through a severe, stressful response myself about a year ago, and I just felt like crap. I felt terrible. I was emotional. I was sick.
yeah.
And I just mentally had gone through a lot of grief. And I woke up kind of in the same situation of like, what's next? Why am I still here? What's the
Yes.
purpose? Who am I
Mm,
here to help?
mm,
Because I felt like I had lived my purpose and fulfilled it. And I was like, if it's time for me to go, I'm good, right? But I
mm,
also said to myself, I never want another person to feel like I had to feel or how I felt during that time without the
mm,
type of support that I needed. And so
Mm,
there's different levels of support, right? There's the physical support, there's emotional support, there's energetic and spiritual support, and there's financial support. There's all these different types of support that we need. And in that moment, I didn't have people around me who could hold the space that I
mhm,
needed to be held in, from
mhm,
compassion and
mhm,
from openness and from grace. I had a
mhm,
lot of like, so what you gonna do? So you need to figure this out. So, what's going on? I mean, it was a lot of harsh, people trying to help, but it just made me feel worse.
the thing that created the storm.
The thing that created
Contained
the
the
storm was,
storm, yeah.
yeah, and it just made me feel so much worse. And I didn't feel love from them. I felt judgment, even though
Mhm,
they were trying to help me. And some of them did offer physical support,
mhm,
but it wasn't the type of support that I needed. And
mhm,
it didn't exist. Like, I didn't have people in my area, in my space, in my network that
mhm,
I felt like I could have that one to one exchange with. And I prayed about it and I was like, if I'm coming back from this, I never want to have another person have to feel this way again. And that
mhm,
led me on my mission.
mhm,
So, because sometimes I think we have lived so much and we've helped so many people, we've taken
mhm,
care of people. In my career, I took care of hundreds and thousands of people, put my hands on several people, healing them or walking them through whatever healing journey they are on. And I'm like, okay, now what? Now that that part's over, who else is
mhm,
out there that I'm supposed to be working with and
mhm,
connecting with and guiding? So when you were going through what you were going through, I was like, I know how this feels and I know how
mhm,
alone it can be.
mhm,
And nobody needs to be rescued. It's not about rescuing, but it
mhm,
is about really holding this energy of, I know you can come back from this, but I'm
mhm,
here for whatever you're choosing in this
mhm,
moment. And
mhm,
spirit was just, I just felt in my spirit, in my soul, that it was, you were going to come around just like I had, I came around to. But if you have someone there with you, it just
mhm,
makes it so much easier. There's someone who's
mhm,
not judging you. So
mhm,
what we did, from my shamanic training, I learned that a lot of it is based on the energetics.
mhm,
And a lot of the help that we're getting is in the 3D from others.
mhm,
But this
mhm,
was an energetic process with a lot
mhm,
of emotional energy behind it. And
mhm.
if you didn't approach it that way, you can still be spinning in it, which is why I think a lot of the talk therapy is good. But I said, we're not going to be talking a lot.
Right.
We're going to go into the energetics of this. Where is this
Mhm,
landing in the body? And what we found is that your root chakra
mhm,
was not functioning the way it should be functioning. So I said, let's go into the chakras, And we
mhm,
did a beautiful session. And it's fascinating because when I work with people, I've noticed most of our root chakras, just about everybody that I've worked with, especially when it's ancestral,
mhm,
their root chakra is underactive, it's under
mm,
functioning, and it's always needing help. And
mm,
so, so there's ways to get things done
mm,
without you having to add more emotional charge to it. And that's what we needed. We needed to calm down our emotions. That I needed it when it was my time, when I was
mhm,
grieving and struggling, and you needed it yesterday. But
mhm.
I just didn't have that when I was going through it. So
Yeah.
sometimes that happens, doesn't it? Like you're the solution for this problem, and so you have to go first, and then whatever that is you're going first in, you're
Well,
gonna
I mean, I feel
find
like that
people who
is the
need.
shaman's journey, right? Like actually having to
Yeah,
go
going
through, to
first.
hold space, to be held. Really, I think too in medicine, I mean, I'm being called to hold the space for the healer to come back to become like to being a healer rather than, whatever our current Western medical system has physicians doing. And part of that journey is coming back home to ourselves. And so it's really the journey that you've gone through as a
Yeah.
physician, licensed, practicing, working in hospitals, completely having to, as part of the some of our other podcasts that you've shared your journey, completely having to self-reject, even when it comes to clothing, even when it comes to how you experience joy, right? Having to shut down so many of your desires, your moments of lightness, just to be able to
Hmm.
fit in the system. And so we self-reject over and over and over until we get to a point of losing ourselves. And
Yep.
working, having gone through medicine, graduating, and then having a very clear, I mean, life would not let me. Things shifted so drastically a few times that I've tried to come back in. Life was like, no, this is, you becoming a licensed physician is not happening. This is not your path. It is not for you. So, I had to kind of trust and take that journey. And, I went into teaching and I had a whole teaching career compressed in 5 years because it was really 4 to 6 years because it was, three different teaching positions happening,
Hmm.
like full-time teaching positions happening at the same time. And so I think, when we follow that thing that we're missing. And I mean, for me, when I was young, I was really missing that divine feminine mothering, right? And so
Mm,
that's what
yes.
I became. I think through our pain, through our struggle, comes our purpose. And especially through the shaman's journey, through that, awakened healer um, path
Yeah.
we are shown, and we have to kind of carve out in the woods in our own way, and that becomes our methodology, which then we share with others, we hold space for.
Hmm.
It's something you said I wanted to really point out. You said, um, with the root chakra and the sacral, it's there's this societal norm where we celebrate women that self reject and that boss babe that is going to do it on her own and she doesn't need anyone. And, she's a fighter and she's a hero and she's a Wonder Woman and she's all of these amazing things and she does it on her own. She doesn't need a man. And I'm like, okay, as much as that, there's an empowerment underneath it, which I understand the pure intention behind it, there's a
Hmm.
really dangerous pattern that women go down, that people go down to. Number one, it causes separation. So there is no divine union, whether in the physical or in the energetic in ourselves. Because when we reject the masculine out there, we're also rejecting the masculine within ourselves. And so there's that. But then there's also this level, like levels of self-rejection that this requires in order to show up and be that boss bitch or boss babe or whatever you want to have it,
Hmm.
that actually causes so much disturbance and disruption in our system. Like we have to become, if we're not that way from childhood, we have to become so detached from our body because our body is telling us, girl, slow down.
Oh,
But
yeah.
boss babe is saying, no, girl, speed up, right?
Your
I'm
brain.
like, you can't do both. You
Yeah.
can't be deeply intentionally present for yourself to come home and be running a marathon at the same time. It just
Yes.
does not work.
Yes.
So, as much as
Yeah.
I celebrate women that are like hustling and doing all the things, the grind can stop. That can
Yeah,
stop.
I think it depends on where you are. And yesterday we talked about balance
Mm-hmm.
and harmony, right? And you were saying, and the word that came in was balance. Like, how do we have this balance? Because many of us are go-getters. We're ambitious. The word ambition, I've been thinking a lot about ambition and, connecting to what it means to really be ambitious. It's like you're always, I've had people say, oh, you're just never satisfied. And I'm like, that may be
Mm-hmm.
true. I like to explore. I'm always learning. I've been like this since I was a child.
Yeah.
And so my personality is, to keep going forward, to learn something new. And I feel like a lot of it too is these invitations in human design. Sometimes the invitation's complete for me, right? As a
Mm-hmm.
projector, I'm on to the next invitation. There's something else my soul needs to learn or wants to experience. And I
Mm-hmm.
just think that I'm just an inquisitive person. There's,
Yeah.
something new. There's a new lesson I can learn. There's a new modality I can study. There's somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
coming to receive help. And so I think that, when you have that type of personality, you're always into something. You're ambitious, but you need support and balance. And like I talked about, all those different types of support, I think women have to figure out which one they need the most, because
Mhm.
there's more than one type that people can offer you. And so you may get support from this person, or you may get support from your spouse in that way, or help in a particular way, from your significant other, but they're not fulfilling all those other types of support that you need. And that's what I realized. I needed a
Mhm.
specific type of support, and I needed a
Mhm.
space to be me and to
Mhm.
explore. But it's nice to have someone who might be cooking dinner while I'm doing it,
That's
or
right.
right, or someone to share the household chores and expenses and all those things with. And a lot of us, when you're making what most physicians may make, or you're making these salaries where you can do all of that yourself, you don't think about wanting the other parts of your life to be supported, because in most instances you don't necessarily need it, because you can purchase whatever you need. You can hire somebody to clean your house, you can, you know get someone to cook for you, you can do all these other things, or to go with you places, and you can hang out with people. So I think
Mhm.
sometimes we can mask it with our lifestyles and our salaries. And for me, a
Mhm.
lot of that has shifted. I've gone from that lifestyle to a different lifestyle. And
Mhm.
so when you shift in that respect too, you may need different types of support because of what you're doing now,
Mhm.
right? Like this spiritual work. And the thing about you and I thought about this, and I didn't tell you this, but I thought
Mhm.
about it. Both of our human design types carry an energy of what's to come in there. It's this
Mm.
energy of being a being a stranger of consequence. Like we're in the world, but we have to pull back a lot. And
Mhm.
then we're kind of going about our business, and people may see us and or hear like this conversation, and I'm like, I need this. I need to connect to
Mhm.
them. But it's not an
Mhm.
energy that's necessarily always out there in the world. It's that fifth line part. And you can be
Mm.
considered the savior, which you don't
Mhm.
want.
Mhm.
So, you're here to be a visionary, you're here to be an inspirational leader, but you're also here for people you don't necessarily know.
Mhm.
And so it's this pivoting energy. And sometimes what we're here to bring about hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
So we're ahead of the game. So it makes it even harder, because you're looking for some similarity or some commonality to what you're getting these downloads. And I don't want to say it doesn't exist, but it doesn't feel like the masses are where you are,
No, they're
because
not. And that's the part of being a
that's
visionary.
the
So like
hard
all
part.
my visionaries just said, I'm not alone in that.
I'm not a
Like
no,
I
you're
heard that
not.
ripple.
But it's also in our human design. It's in our
Yes.
human design chart. And so most people that have fifth line energy, you're here to innovate. You're here to bring about something new. So we can't get frustrated when we're looking around like, am I the only one?
Mhm.
Not to say that we are, but in some ways it feels like you're the only one. And maybe in your
Mhm.
circles of people that you're around, or because you're here to bring out something new.
Mhm. Yeah.
But nobody tells you how to do that. You don't
Well,
know how
no,
it
and
feels in your body.
that's the interesting part too, because for me, I'm a 3/5, so I'm the
Right,
experimenter
right.
and that sort of like visionary that like I see, and this is the beauty in the world that I work in right now. I work in healthcare transformation between like a nonprofit organization that's really kind of the non-clinical backbone support of physicians, family physicians, and then another organization that's really the very clinical in hospital, urgent care, like and hiring the actual healthcare providers alongside the physicians. And so, and then the Ministry of Health, obviously, with the funding and expectations, and having to actually bring back the message of this is how taxpayer dollars were used, right? So we're in this very interesting time right now where there's accountabilities and people are accountable, they're doing the right thing. But all of these sort of problems or issues or inadequacies in the system, there's always the gray space that no one really takes responsibility for because it's not in their portfolio. So I actually hold space for the space in the middle that's in nobody's portfolio, for people to come together and work on the side of their desk to solve the problems. So for me, when a vision comes, and the problem is if I try to explain it, people look at me like I'm crazy. Like this is
Yep.
like something absolutely impossible to happen.
Yep.
And so I've learned that instead of sharing the vision, like because in my vision, the timeline is collapsed and like I just
Yeah.
already see all
Mm-hmm.
the things being done. So what I have to do is really expand that timeline, go to step one and explain and really have to validate why step one is going
Mm-hmm.
to work. And a lot of times it's counterintuitive because step one is part of the organizational piece to get everybody on board of something they can't understand because it doesn't exist yet,
Yep.
right? So I find that in spaces with visionaries and a lot of CEOs and a lot of leaders, right? Whether it's that sort of masculine leader, king type energy in your community, and you're meant to be holding space for like men to come together and really be able to deepen in their ability to feel, right? Emotions aren't something that the men in our generation were taught to suppress their emotions, not to feel, right? And for the women, we were taught really to do a lot more. Like we were in competition with the masculine. That's why we've become the boss babes, right? We're not asking for help. We're doing it on our own. And so saying all of this to say, I think it's really important to recognize, like, yes, our own unique individual energetic pattern, which is the human design, which you teach so eloquently and beautifully and hold space for people to really understand themselves. Like we talk about
Yes.
understanding is like a more of a mental process, but understanding is really embodiment, like really being able to say, oh, I really feel that. Oh, that's why it's this real coming home. Like, it's like, that's
Yes.
why all of these things in life have had this pattern. And it's like you can start to actually choose how you're showing up. So, for example, for me as a generator, I know, and especially as a 3-5, the great life experimenter and someone who has the visions of like what the future solutions are, I know that when it's inspired, is when I have to take action. And so if it's something that I strategize too much or I try to figure it out, like I used to be a
Yes.
perfectionist as a child, I will never, ever put anything out because it's never
Mm-hmm.
going to be perfect. It's
Never
never going
gonna.
to be at that visionary stage in this lifetime unless I start at imperfection. And that was
Mm-hmm.
really hard. Like that was my entire 20s and almost my entire 30s, figuring out like what is that fine balance of, you know, I do the thing, but like I have to do it when it's excited, when it's like when I'm still curious, when I still want to dig into it and figure things out together, right?
Yeah.
And for you, you're a projector, so I don't know if you want to speak to that, but a lot of times too in the past, even with us in the beginning of our relationship, there was something that had come up as an idea for me. And the first thing that came through was a limitation of, oh, I don't want to burden you. I don't want to burden you,
Mm.
so I'm not going to ask you for this thing because I feel like I'm asking for too much. I didn't know at the time that you're a projector and that you need that invitation. And it is the most generous thing that I can do is to ask you
Yes,
to
we
come
like
in
being
and do the
invited.
thing.
Yeah, and as we all learn more about HD and we learn more about our types and really start to embody this information and find people that are interested in it, because it's like a resonance that happens in your body once you find out. It may not be everybody's jam. We're not out here to share with those that don't feel aligned, but those of us that geek out on this. At least,
Yeah.
I know I do. I love it because it made a difference for me. I'm a 5-1. So I'm a visionary leader too. And that my fifth line is in my conscious. So I didn't understand why. the projection field was what it was until I understood my design type. And then you start to reflect backwards on circumstances and things that you've experienced. And
Mhm.
so when you are staying in invitations as a projector too long, was we need to be invited, we have to be invited for the right thing. Like this right here is a
Mhm.
perfect invitation for me
Yeah.
because I get to use my energy in a way that lights me up. I'm here to be a clarion. I'm here
Mhm.
to offer clarity, to talk, to share wisdom, to share what comes through my intuition. We didn't know
Mhm.
what we were going to talk about on this call. We just like, let's just jump
Mhm.
on and start
We
talking.
weren't even going to record
We
today.
weren't even right, which is perfect. Like,
Yeah.
and so it doesn't have to be scripted. It doesn't have to be perfect. Your energy is going to speak for itself. So for people who are listening and they wonder, well, how do I start doing this? Sometimes you just have to start, especially when they're
Mhm.
wired like you are as a third line. I have a lot of compassion for all of my third lines. One of my really, really good friends is a third line, and
Mhm.
she has really gone through the process of what third lines really need to do so that they can honor their experimental personalities,
Yeah.
but not get caught up in the details of it when you're in it.
Yeah.
And we have worked very, very difficult, very, very detailed together over the last several years. And what we figured out is when you are experimenting with something or exploring, when you're exploring, because you're really
Mhm.
explorers, you will
Yeah.
be living that way your whole life. It's just,
Yes.
and you're in it. And so
Yeah.
you're in it like this, and then you come out of it, then you get your clarity.
Yes.
But most of us who have been trained, especially as physicians, get clarity first. Then you take action. So
That's
there is a
right.
flip that has to happen in how we have been wired for so long. Because, as a doc, you can't just go around experimenting. You have to
Right.
have a bunch of knowledge.
Mhm.
But I think that when you don't have a lot of one line energy in you and you're trying to absorb all this information and you're trying to figure all this stuff out, we talk about how hard that can be. So you get your clarity after maybe you've experiments on things or tried something and
Mhm.
it didn't work. And then you
Mhm.
get all this knowledge from that.
Mhm.
Or it
Mhm.
worked great and you get a bunch of knowledge from that. And this society just doesn't have a lot of grace for when things are messed up, right? In our mind, messed up.
Mhm.
When
Mhm.
ideally there really is no messing up. There's only
Right.
learned experience, but that's really, really idealistic. And most people don't
Mhm.
have the patience, they don't have the education, the knowledge to understand that that's what's really happening. So if you're a third line and you're listening out there, have some grace for yourself.
Mhm.
And that's what I was trying to tell you. You got to have grace. I was like, you're like, well, what are we going to do? And is it going to work? And I was like, you won't know until you actually complete it.
You just gotta trust the process,
You
baby
got
girl.
to
You just
trust the
gotta do it.
process. Yeah, I was
I
like, I can't
remember
tell you
that
what. She said,
character.
well, what kind of what kind of stone should I pick? And I'm picking three. And I was like, just pick one. Just pick the first one. And and you were like,
Oh
well,
my
what is
God.
it? How long is it gonna take? I said, as long as it takes. We didn't know how long it was gonna test it. Well, just make sure you. I didn't tell you a time because I said, do you have the rest of the data? Yeah. I was like, okay, good, because I never know, and we want to know. I really empathize with my third lines because you want to know so much ahead of time, but you're wired to get your information on the back end.
Yes.
You're not
Okay, so I
wired to
love
get
I
it.
love that example. The reason I started laughing earlier and like you really cemented that just now is I went to the Richard Rudd's Future Human talk in London in the UK at the Friendship House.
Oh, how
I think it was
cool.
2024, it was 2 years ago. And he was
Mm.
talking about our culture. So our culture is part of the human design. So in the human design for gene keys, sorry, for people who are listening,
Mm-hmm.
Richard Rudd created Gene Keys as
Shout
he
out.
was friends with Ra, who created Human Design, and at some point he started to get these downloads about Gene Keys, and I'm probably butchering his story completely. So if you
Shout
want to
out
listen
to
to the
Richard.
story, go to genekeys.com. He tells his story beautifully. But what
Mm-hmm.
happened was that he was talking about so in the gene keys, there's different spheres that kind of describe our relationship with ourselves and our evolution in that relationship, our relationship with our most karmic bonds or others, and then our relationship with our prosperity and our service to humanity or to the community, to the greater whole, and then how we earn our abundance, our really prosperity. And so the culture, how we show up in community, and what is our way of really being, and the lines really defining that. So
Mm-hmm.
line ones are very much more like individual. When they serve themselves, they serve the greater good. Line twos are more in kind of that one-on-one sort of relationship. And then he was talking about line threes, which I am, and he said line threes always need an exit. You need to know where the exit door is for you to feel comfortable. And I've never identified as somebody with commitment issues. Like I've always been, when there's a relationship, I'm all in. I'm like horse with blinders all in.
Mm-hmm.
I've never considered this part of me, even when it's a project, when it's something that I'm passionate about, when it's anything. For me, when I'm about it, like we were talking about earlier, when we're committed, that's it.
That's it.
There's something about that exit door. And it's something that you said just now that was exactly that. It's like knowing that there is a space of being able to pull out
Mm-hmm.
where you get that distance from it. Not to say that you're taking away the commitment to it, but just getting that distance from it.
Yes,
And
you
so
have
that,
to.
I think, is identified as that like free spiritedness, right? That free
Right.
spirit in us wants to be able to, because when you're experimenting, you can't fully commit and say, I'm going to take this to the end, because if it shows itself that it's not working, you iterate, right? You
Gotta
optimize,
shift it.
you
Mm-hmm.
shift it, you shift and you shift and you shift. And maybe that doesn't look like what you originally intended, but it's always going to work out eventually.
Yep.
And I've had a really hard time explaining that in the business world. People are like, make a pitch deck. And I'm like, I can't possibly make a pitch deck that's going to take you through the whole journey, because that journey is going to change so many times. And
Yep.
we just need to get started and it will show itself. And people are like, well, what the heck does that mean? How does someone invest in something that will show itself? And it's like the 3 5s really need a space. Maybe it's only working with angel investors that are willing to be in the unknown, because that is how we create. That is really like when that trust is there, and when that commitment and that devotion is there. Devotion is such an interesting word to use in the business space. People are like, what are you talking about? But I think it's really powerful when people do come together that are spiritual people to actually create the future. um, but just going back to the culture piece, I just wanted to finish that. Like line fours, so line threes work in small groups, so anywhere between 3 to 15 people, I think. And then line fours work in like larger groups, 15 to I think 30 or 40. And then line fives are kind of that like the whole community kind of city. And then line sixes are actually look usually way above. They're like the sages that don't even touch down. They
Mm-hmm.
hold the energy of everyone, but they're not actually in the space. And he was saying that now, as humanity is evolving, line sixes are
Yeah.
being asked to come and touch down and actually reorganize the way we're doing things, even in societies. And so we're going from this sort of hierarchical model of there's the leader, and then there's the system underneath the leader that manages the other people at the bottom. That hierarchy is flattening and it's turning into synarchy. So everyone's kind of starting to do what they're naturally good at doing and taking the lead in their own lane. There's still leadership, right? But it's not in a hierarchical sense, and it's not about that reporting up, but it's really flattening the curve. And so
Yeah.
the six is coming down into the grassroots, right? Like the CEO actually coming down and seeing what is happening on the ground, the
Right.
VPs, the managers, like whoever the people, and that's what's happening in our system that's making it work really well. You cannot make a decision about a system that you know nothing about and that you've never seen. And that's how our system has been set up. And that's why it's not working.
Yeah, you have to listen to the everyday folks that are doing things. Yeah, I agree. And projectors are here to help bring that in. We're here to help manage the energies, to help, move energies around, to be present in a space that needs some energetic clearing. And so I was like, how fascinating is it that from a, human design perspective that we're here to hold this high vision for people, and also that from what I went through going through shamanic work, it's the same thing. It's like all these synchronicities are adding up. And it's like, how can we help those who are in leadership? And it's collaborative leadership, isn't it? Right? Like where we're
It
going.
has to be.
And
Yeah.
we have to take care of ourselves so that we can be those leaders. And I knew, at least I felt pretty strongly, that the people that were coming to me, or people who were here doing big things in the world, who were here to be a part of that shift, and that
Mm-hmm.
I needed to be in the right place at the right time, or working with the right people who are going to be taking care of others who need to now make the shifts that we have started making years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
looking at things very differently. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, it's going
Yeah.
to resonate with who it's going to resonate with. And I think that what I want you to know is that the work you're doing is going to matter. And it may not be in our lifetime. That's the other piece about being a fifth
Mm-hmm.
line, because Ra was the fifth line. And most
Mm-hmm.
of what he brought down, he was a manifester. So it made sense. He kind of got this going for us.
Yes.
And then he was gone. So most of what
Mm-hmm.
he, brought to the table, he is not fully seen come through, come to fruition. It's starting to pick up now. We're starting to see the more people learn about what he was trying to teach about years ago. And we're seeing people take it further and explain it
Mm-hmm.
differently, and truly live it. So we're
Mm-hmm.
like the first group of collaborative group of people on the earth who've gotten this information in the 80s and 90s or whatever, and decided to live it. Many of us came into it in the early 2000s or late 2000s. For me, this will be year 7.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still babies in this. So I think we
Yes.
have to continue to give us grace. But as a fifth line, what you're here to express, see, what you know in your body, what the visions, you may not be here to see it all come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
we have to understand that sometimes we're so far ahead of it that we have to move it forward so our fourth lines can help the collective move it forward,
Mm-hmm.
because our fourth lines are kind of right here in the collective,
Mm-hmm.
helping them kind of get to a certain level. And then they're
Mm-hmm.
like, that's my job. I'm doing what I'm supposed to
Yeah.
do. I have a mission, I'm doing that. But then here you have your fifth lines who are here to say, okay, well, over here, here's the innovative aspect of
Mm-hmm.
things. And then your
Mm-hmm.
sixth line is like, it's about time y'all showed up.
Yes.
You know, I've been
The fifth
waiting
line is
all
also like a
my
bridge.
life.
The fifth line is
Here's,
also a bridge, right? Like being able
yeah,
to
we're all
bridge those
bridges. And
separated, yeah, communities and
yeah,
spaces. Yeah, that's so funny.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Do you mind,
So cool.
Gayla, just sharing a little bit about the actual service offering in case people are listening and they're like, okay, I want in, like I want to work with you. What does that look like? So I think there's like the human design piece that you can go through people's charts, but then specifically the energetic clearing is what I really wanted to hold space to share of um, how
Hmm.
powerful it is for that energy to be cleared with your support. I could have never done it alone. I just want to say that. So going back to the whole like women doing everything for themselves, that bra burning feminism, it's so
Mm-mm.
funny because you'll see groups on Instagram of like hundreds and thousands of women being like, "Yes, I'm doing this on my own." And it's like, but you're in community. Doing it together but on your own, and it's just kind of funny, but
Yeah.
we do it's I want to say actually impossible because that's why we're created as humans to interact with each other and to support each other. So there are certain levels of energetic clearing that without a container of somebody else's capacity to hold, it's a different experience. It's a different type of clearing that happens when you have somebody else
Yes.
that holds the space. So I'm not saying people can't clear their own energy. Absolutely, they can. Open a window, wash your
Oh yeah,
hands, take
for
like
sure.
there's so many things we are responsible for our energetic hygiene. And when it comes to really creating an energetic space that has never existed in our system,
Hmm.
we can't
Yeah.
create something that we've never been exposed to. Um, Through experimentation, eventually we could get there, but like I'm not trying to take the next 20 years to get there.
That
So
part.
thank you
That part.
for thank you for holding the space and being so gracious to like catch my ever shifting vessel when it was ready to say, okay, yes, this doesn't feel like codependency. I don't feel like I'm looking at you for my answer because you gently, I asked you, is this the best time? This and this is going on. And you're like, well, how do you feel about it? And I'm like, oh. And you're like, I know that's why you asked me because you wanted me to answer. And I said, no, actually, this is the pattern I'm getting away from and my resistance. And this is the irony of our growth edge. The resistance is usually the way. So my resistance was, well, I don't want to go back to that pattern of
Hmm.
outsourcing my truth. And funny enough, I came to you to outsource my truth and you gave it back to me and said, well, how does it feel
Yeah.
for you? And I said, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's not the work.
Yeah, and it felt perfect. So I just, if you don't mind just sharing, like
Hmm.
what is it called? What do you do? And then, yeah, just how can people get in touch with you? Because I think
Yeah.
it's so
Sure.
important, especially right now, especially this week. So many people are going through it, and like there is a
Yes.
massive opportunity to shift out of the storm, out of the chaos.
Right. Yeah, that's it. That's it. If someone feels like they're in the chaos, we are here to help hold space for that chaos and to allow those energies. So I said, we're not trying to make you not feel. We're here to help support whatever you're going through, but the energetic space to have that clear, to have the meditation time. That's what I do. And I take into account all of it. So if someone wants to work with me, the first thing I always do is a consultation with them. So if you want to reach out, you can email me at ggfaith02@gmail.com. And or you can email me at the AHEcoach at gmail, either one. And that's the best thing. And I'm obviously on Facebook, and you can connect with me here on YouTube too. And what I normally do is just set up a consultation with the person because with that it helps me because I'm an intuitive person. I can hear what's the best thing to start with. For some
Mhm,
people, their first session is just a time to talk. They need to move energy verbally. They need to share.
mhm,
And so that's usually what I offer people to do because if you don't have sometimes some of that time to share it, then I get a click, say, okay, now we need to go into the energy aspects of things.
mhm,
I like to know someone's design ahead of time because that helps me guide the session.
mhm,
If I know someone's emotional, they're going to need time. If I know authority, if I know that they're splenic like me, they don't need time. They need to get on it now.
mhm,
If they are projector, they need an invitation. So I sometimes will get their information on that consult call.
mhm,
And then if I know they're ready for the energy piece of it, because you have to be ready for a transformation. It's not something that I do lightly. And
mhm,
then we bring in everything is done online, which I absolutely love. I don't have to be in your physical space to do it. And
mhm,
we go through what's the biggest emotionally charged thing that you have going on.
mhm,
And then we heal through the chakras. We
mhm,
go through and figure out through a meditative process
mhm,
where you're holding that. Where is that story in your body? And how many of them do you have?
mhm,
And sometimes just a quiet, intentional, loving, and unconditionally loving space that I know I offer people is what they need the most. They just
mhm,
need that. It's okay. It's gonna be all right. I
mhm,
got you. And my
mhm,
people that find me and the people we work with are high functioning people.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody feels like they're about to fall apart, this is not the place. Like you need
Right.
therapy or you need to go to the hospital or see a psychiatrist, or something like that. But this is for someone who is able to hold their own energy. And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with it. I've been there where I needed other help too,
Mm-hmm.
besides this.
Absolutely.
And there's no reason to judge yourself for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
easier said than done, I will say. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what the session is like. We meet, we talk, and then we go through, and with your relaxed state and
Mm-hmm.
my relaxed state, we can talk through and meditate through and heal where a
Mm-hmm.
lot of this is. And for most people, it's their root, because we're
Mm-hmm.
worried about where we're going to live, how much money we're going to have,
Right.
are we going to sustain ourselves?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our root chakras are all the way. I feel like they're tired.
Yes, they're being jacked up right
They're
now, very
being, yeah, they're
intentionally.
tired and they need help. And then there's the aftercare. So I just want to speak on that real quick. The aftercare. So your session opens you up, it gives you clarity, and then you have homework. You have sometimes a new gift that you're needing to integrate. I always ask for a gift for someone. And then that gift, like yours, if it's okay if I share, your
Yeah.
gift was joy. You wanted to bring back joy. And so I said, okay, well, how does that look? Then sometimes we have a spirit animal that shows up. Now
Mm-hmm.
you want to start integrating with that. And
Mm-hmm.
then we talk about how do you care for your body after you have moved all this energy, after you've let it out of your body. Now, how do I care for my body? So
Mm-hmm.
we recommend showers and baths and maybe a fire ceremony for somebody. So there's always more that you have to
Mm-hmm.
commit to after you've had a session. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why ideally, Relitza, what I like is for people to do anywhere from 3 to 6 sessions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is
Yeah.
usually one and done, sometimes can help, but I really like to work with people a minimum of 3 to 6 times because you
Mm-hmm.
need to process, you need to talk about it. I need to kind of gauge where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you and I see each other enough that we get to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and my
Yeah.
sessions are 13. It came very clearly. It's like in order to move and do such drastic shifts,
Hmm.
it cannot be. People have had asked for one-off sessions, and to me, it's not energetically, spiritually responsible because I
Hmm.
know that at some point, I mean, it's like you know that you're going to move so much that it requires that follow up and that support and that kind of, that aligned
Right.
action, that accountability. And so
Yes.
I just want to mention for the people that are listening right now that might feel intimidated or that feel like, well, I don't know what human design is or what gene keys are, what chakras are. You guys are speaking a different language. You don't need to know any of this. All you need to know is your date, birth, and location. So, date, time, and location of your birth, in
Hmm.
order for Gayla to take that information and put it into her system to figure it all out. So, you actually don't need to know anything except that. And some people don't know what time they're born, and that's okay too. Some people don't know exactly what day they're born either. And that's, I think through running it a few times and figuring out where they feel most aligned, you can kind of figure it out
Sometimes
or
I do that. I prefer to get the as much information as possible, and I have sometimes looked at it, different charts, but it's really important that we can get that information. And if that does not need to, in other words, you don't need that in order to do the energetic work. So
beautiful.
yeah, that's what you were saying.
Beautiful.
They're
Thank
two
you for
different
clarifying that.
things.
Two
Yeah,
different things.
yeah,
Yes.
they're two
So for
different
those
things.
that are out there, because I think a lot of people I've heard, especially people that were born in places where there wasn't a hospital or like no one was looking at the time of the calendar, you were just
Mm-hmm.
born, So they have
Yeah.
a general idea of when they were born, but they might not have a specific date. I just want to say that it's not. It doesn't discount you from being able to receive this kind of space and show up and ask for
No.
support.
No,
So
no. We work with
yeah,
that.
thank you, Gayla, so much. I do have to get going, but it was such a beautiful spur of the moment. And again, so many of our conversations are just intuitive, like streaming
What comes
consciousness,
up?
whatever comes up, and I love that because that is where the most juicy, powerful message and where that wisdom comes through and is magnetic because it is vulnerable. It is raw. It's
Not
not edited.
pre-planned.
It's not, you know.
No.
So I really appreciate that you are able to hold that space. I think a lot of people need a lot of structure and planning, and so
Mm-mm.
whoever's listening who needs this, please reach out to Gayla. She is such a gift. It has been
Yes.
such a beautiful space to unravel. My whole life, I'm turning 40 this year. I've never had that resonance and that safety, that frequency of like, I've got you. Um,
Mhm.
no matter what you bring, who you are, like what you tell me, it's safe. It's completely, it's not like non-judgmental doesn't even enter into the realm of what's going on here because it's literally just space for energy to move and done in
Mhm.
such a integral, such a beautiful way where it's like you don't actually need to do like there's no you don't have to do like a dieta like in ayahuasca ceremonies. Like you just come as you are and
Mhm.
all the things will, and if you're intuitive, like I brought this tea and I actually had found it the day before. So like once you set the intention to do this, your entire week will show you. Life will
You
show you
can.
all the things you need if you can listen in order to come and like fully receive and fully be. So
Yeah. So give
thank you
yourself
again.
credit for that. Give yourself credit for that too. You
Thank
gotta say,
I'm a
you
t-
gotta
I'm
own
tapped
that
in.
too.
I'm
Yes.
tapped in. I was
Yes.
not
You
tapped
did a
in since
good
baby.
job. Yeah. Kudos to you. And thank you for being there as well.
Thank you so much, Gayla. I love you. I'll see you soon.
That's right.
This is the beginning of becoming unintentionally divine.